My name is Sandy Warshaw. I am about to be 82 years old, and I'm a native-born New Yorker. Even though I wasn't in the Holocaust, I think I have a somewhat important Jewish journey. When I was 78, I decided I had to find God before I became 80. So I went to the rabbi and sort of looked for it. I still haven't completely found a definition of God that I can live with. But West End Synagogue is out Reconstructionist synagogue, and it has a Reconstructionist philosophy, and we're taught the Reconstructionist philosophy. And so among that, part of that is a God who it's not a personal God, it's not a man with a white beard, it's not even somebody you pray to for personal help. It's a force in the universe, and I could identify with that. I began to develop a comfort with going to Shabbat services every week. And in Reconstructionists, they start with belonging, which is belonging in community and relating to community in a very big way, and then behaving, and a real stress on how you behave in an ethical kind of way. It was a kind of Judaism that I felt comfortable with. And I'm not quite sure how I completely identify a spiritual quest, except to say that it certainly is much more in my life than Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Passover, and Hanukkah. But there's a part of me that connects a little bit differently to something that's bigger than both of us. Michelle Obama came to town, and she was interviewed on television. And she introduced she said, when the family is separated and they come to the dining table for the first time, they do roses and thorns. What are the roses and thorns in our time since we've been away, roses and thorns in your life? And I said, what a good way to start conversation. It doesn't have to be roses and thorns of growing older, but it has evolved into roses and thorns of growing older. And it's a way to start the discussion in the groups of older people that I facilitate. And if you're coming for the first time, you've got your whole life to go back to. But basically, in the week that we've been away, what are the roses and thorns that have been in your life? And so it comes from Michelle Obama, but the path that it's taken is mine. The goal of Roses and Thorns is to help people help each other in solving some of the things that happen as you're growing older. We've done a lot of work with having to give up your independence and going from walking to a cane to a walker to a wheelchair, and what that means and the things that we can no longer do. Not only do people have a chance to say what it is that's going on with them in relation to Bree, but the other people in the room have a chance to think about what they're giving up besides people, and to think about how their lives are impacted by each other. There are rules of the game. You can't interrupt anybody. You have to speak from your own experience. So you may be grieving in a particular way, and I may be grieving in another way, but it's my way and your way. And we celebrate the roses as much as we deal with the thorns. Because we live in a world that's ageist, all right, where people growing older are not listened to and aren't respected. That's a part of it. And where the visions of growing older are very negative. And I always say, children play house. Did you ever know a child who played grandmother? But there are all kinds of negative things that are presented about growing old. And my goal is to help people to deal with those negative aspects and to help them see I see growing old as an adventure, and to help them see it as something positive and a time of growth. Personal growth, it can be spiritual growth, that neither group do we deal with religion. A time when they can take a look at those negative things and say, I'm not going to be held to them. That's not who I am. Let me find out who I am, and let me live more comfortably with who I am.
You're asking me to go through the day of the hijacking. It was in 1970. And about 5 minutes into the air when we took off, there was a big commotion, and men were running through the aisle and yelling, "This is a hijacking, raise your hands behind your head, and this is a hijacking." So they took our passports, especially the Israelis who had both passports. They were scared, and when you're scared, you do things that you wouldn't do normally, like throwing into the toilets their Israeli passports. I didn't have that problem because I didn't have any other, and I wouldn't throw a passport in the toilet in any case. But some people get scared and they don't act very rationally. So we went back to the East, to the Middle East, and all the countries wouldn't let them land. So finally, we landed in the desert. We were all together eight days. And at first we got food from the refugee camp. They provided us. Some of the families that were there were very Orthodox, and for the rabbi the food wasn't kosher enough. But it so happened that my mother had baked strudel and gave us a whole basket of strudel because nobody makes it as well as she does. So I went to the rabbi and I told my background so that he would have confidence that it was done in a kosher home. So we distributed. And at night was very scary because they would come in the darkness and they would take off some men every night. Towards the end of the hijacking, which was 8 days, there were no men anymore on the plane. We finally finished the negotiations. We were taken to Amman, which is the capital of Jordan. And I remember the first few weeks or even months, I had nightmares. So as an Israeli, it's important for me to protect and not to have anti-Semitism develop as it is all over. We used to say, everybody, never again. I don't think we can say it anymore.
My name is Marilyn Braveman. I became a feminist as an adult. There was no such thing when I was a kid. I guess it was when I got to middle school. I come from a very musical family, and we all took piano lessons. I wasn't very good at it, but I loved music. But my ambition was to be in a marching band. So I went to the music department and said I wanted to be in the marching band. I wanted to learn a wind instrument. You can't be in the marching band, I was told, because you have to wear a uniform, and the uniform is slacks, and girls are not permitted to wear them to school. And I was very disappointed. But then the music professor handed me a cello, and I put my arms and legs around the cello and fell in love. And I played the cello till the 60s. I remember in high school, I belonged to a group called Youth Builders, which is just what it sounded like. And we would do announcements. They gave me a microphone to rehearse, and I was so excited. I loved having a microphone. And then I was told that I could not make the announcement. And that was because I was a girl. I had a very disturbing experience at college. There was a student strike because the dormitory for ex-soldiers was segregated, different floors for blacks and for whites. And there was a student strike again about that, joined by a woman's strike because the most famous Spanish teacher didn't think they should have girls at City College. So he put all the girls in the back row in Spanish class and never called on us, and then gave us low marks because of a lack of oral contribution. So we went on strike, and a police came. It was a very orderly demonstration, but the police came on horses and raced into the crowd and terrified me. So although I remained an activist, I never went to another rally again. Too scared. Well, my first marriage, I tell jokingly, I used to say that I was a success because I married a doctor, and he was a failure because he married a poor girl. And it was true. In the 50s, I was a good housewife. I cooked dinner every night. I took care of the children once I had children. I didn't do much of anything. And then, of course, came the 60s. Suddenly, I was no longer content to be a nice housewife, and it was a big change in my life. Parkway Village was an international community that was built for the United Nations personnel after the Second World War. It was something that changed my life forever, because it wasn't just that there was so much diversity and different cultures. It was that I was for the first time among women that didn't care what brand of detergent they used. And we talked about world events. And the other big thing was that, I don't know if you've heard of a book called The Feminine Mystique, but this was written by Betty Friedan when she was a resident of Parkway Village. Once we started hearing about the book and talking about it, I think it changed the lives of almost all of the women in Parkway Village. I became very active. I went to work at the American Jewish Committee, which was then a national organization that had social justice as its agenda in the fields of education, which I did, affirmative action, women's issues, housing, the whole gamut. I got the award as Woman of Valor from the Jewish Fund for Justice. And the real fun thing about it is that Ruth Messenger, who was then the borough president, made a proclamation and called the day of the award Marilyn Braveman Day. The award was given jointly with Bella Abzug. Between Bella and Betty Friedan, the women's movement grew and grew up. And that's where I met my second husband, because he was on my board. And it was a very dynamic relationship. My second marriage was a marriage of equals in every way, and I would want to tell young women to settle for nothing less. I like doing this, and I like telling my story because I hope that it helps young women who may not really be feminists to see that it's okay to stop wearing pink and princess dresses. When I see the little girls in my building behaving the way I did as a little girl, I don't like it. Feminism to me is freedom.
This is my mother and my sibling. Everybody got murdered. And this is me. I was 13 when the war started. I was in ghetto, in Warsaw ghetto, till they catch me and send me to the camp. When we came to Auschwitz, they cut our hair and they tattoo it. And from now on, you are a prisoner and 48,900. You are not a name. And the Hefe triangle means a Jew. At night, they took us out and they brought us to the gas chamber. So we know what is this. We wanted to say Shema Israel and prayer and crying. My aunt heard me. I said, I don't want to die. I am afraid. She says, most probably it will not be so bad. It will not take too much time. They put the gas and this. All of a sudden the door was open and the assessment, the man came and said, shut up, and lay down on the floor. The girls were standing next to him, kissed his legs. At night we didn't sleep, we watched the window, if they don't close the window to put gas. In the morning they took us out to the ramp and there was train. When we were out, a group of girls came in and the Jewish prisoners were working next to the train. They say there was a mistake in number, so they didn't kill you. The girls that are going now, they're going to be killed. I got typhus. I was taken to the hospital. I had high fever, but I didn't say I was, because to stay in camp, not to go on the war, it was death. I was very tired, I had high fever, so I sit down next to the wall and I fall asleep on the floor next to the wall. And then they waking me up. I said, why are you waking me up? Where are you taking me? They writing the number. They taking you on the block 25. The block 25, they used to gather the prisoner. They saved the gas, the Cyclone 5. So I knew already, I was already long in camp. I knew what is 25. And I said, please don't send me to 25. I am fine, I will be fine. Don't send me 25, I want to leave. He said, too late, where have you been? I said, I was sleeping. There was a Polish doctor. And I spoke to her Polish, I said, proszę pani, please. I kissed her legs. And she took out my number. Once after the work, we want to go to sleep. They told us, everybody get up. And they took us to a place in the wood. They brought a gap, two German, two assessment, and they hang her. It was windy, it was night, and her body was turned around because of the wind here and there. And they say, if somebody has in mind to run away, this is what will happen to her. It was dark, it was cold, and she was hanging. It was a terrible picture. Everybody was crying. So I say, I have an idea. On the firmament of the sky, I put a white tablecloth. Do you see the white tablecloth? And do you see in the middle of the tablecloth two candles? My mother in a night dress, my sister, and my father is coming back from the shul. And all of a sudden became quiet. Nobody cried. Everybody was listening to my story. And then a woman, she must be older than we, because mostly they were 16, 17, 18. She stopped me, she took my hand and she said, you must survive. God bless you with wonderful talent to telling. And you have to tell, she said, you have to tell to whole world what they did to us. Promise me, promise me. She closed my eyes, we cry, she cry, I promise. And after the war, I wrote a book. Here there is no why, because when we ask somebody, why are you doing this, the couple, they say in Germany, here is ohne warum, here there is no why. We were sitting, we are not working anymore, there no water and no nothing. We're sitting, thinking what will be, what will be. I went out, I saw on the watchtower, the German has a white band here on the arm. I came back and the girl said, white, it means surrounded. Another girl went out to look, he said, yes, true, she's right. This is the nicest moment in my life. We are liberated, we're going to live. Oy, you never give up. You have to fight for life, for everything. Vouloir, c'est pouvoir. If you want, you can.
Als ik de maan zie in mijn kinderjugend und wie akulen kommt es mir vor, wie seht es durch die Welle, wo es Gott am geglaubt.